lens there for a second, make sure we're good to go.
You gotta make sure the lens is all. Oh, look at you. Look good, Dave.
We're running a little behind today, so I apologize for that. If you are watching this on the replay on Tuesday night, this is Backstage with Chris, and we are going to be playing a show not long after this goes live, so we were not going to be able to be here totally live with you, so we are pre-recording this Backstage with Chris so that we can say hello to you guys, share a nice recipe with you that I'm going to be doing live, and I am running behind today, so we are playing catch up right now. It's all for good things, but we're running a little bit behind, and I am playing catch up. We're trying to get everything done, so this is all going to be done on the fly in a way that I don't normally do things on the fly. Like this is more on the fly than what I even like to be, but we're going to make it happen. So.
Well, I have full faith in you.
Yes. Well.
I think that you are Superman.
I don't know about any of that. So if we have any of our members, the Patreon or the YouTube members in the band that are here, please let us know, and we will see if you can hear us and if everything looks okay. Is your microphone being weird, honey?
It is.
Hang on just a minute, folks. Let's figure out what's going on
It
here.
wasn't showing up, I noticed.
Okay. No idea.
That's all right. We'll just you talk and.
Okay. So you guys are probably not going to be able to hear Ash tonight. Unfortunately, you'll be able to hear me. So if she asks me a question, I will respond and read it back. So do we have anybody in the chat while we're getting ready for this, honey?
Oh, we sure do, my love. Lillian is here.
Lillian is here.
She says, I'm sorry I can't be here in 5 hours. This is past midnight. But I will sure try to see it ASAP.
It is past midnight for her, so she can't be here for the whole thing. So totally fine, totally understand. Lillian, when you come back and watch the replay, we appreciate you very, very much. So.
Mary Kay Wesling is here.
Mary Kay Wesling is here. Hello, Mary Kay.
Watching from Kansas City, Mo.
Yeah, let me know if you can hear me all right. I appreciate that. So, all right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start working on stuff, and we're going to take it from there. So I have back here set up a meat grinder. I had intended to have this done, but we're just going to do it live. So I have a meat grinder set up attached to my KitchenAid mixer, and I'm going to get out some chicken thighs that I cleaned to make sure there were no bones, there's no skin, there's no nothing. They've been in the freezer for about 15 minutes. I don't need them frozen. I just need to make sure they're really good and cold because it's going to make them go through the meat grinder a little bit easier. So I've got about I think this is about 3¼ pounds or so of boneless, skinless chicken thigh. Doesn't really matter, but I'm going to grind up some chicken thigh because I want to grind my own to make sure that it's nice and fatty. And when you get ground chicken at the grocery store, when it's the fatty ground chicken, I don't really know how good that is. I don't really know what goes into that. So we love chicken thighs, and for what I'm using tonight to do these buffalo chicken burger patties, I need fatty chicken that's not going to dry out while it is in the air fryer. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. I'm just going to grind up all this chicken meat. Nothing particularly interesting about this other than the fact that I am grinding it fresh. Get my little pusher here, and we're just going to grind up some chicken thigh. Yes, Ash wants to know if I can tell people what I'm making. I'm making buffalo chicken burger patties in the air fryer, and these are going to be a super cool, kind of different way of having that buffalo chicken flavor. So you don't necessarily have to go to the trouble of frying wings. You can use ground chicken if that's cool, or if you want to grind your own like I'm doing, you can do that. And we're going to make some incredible buffalo chicken burger patties. I'm going to show you how we get those buffalo chicken flavors not just on the outside, but on the inside of the burger patty as well. And this is a fun kind of thing to do for kids. You could do them instead of in burger patty shapes, you could do them in like long fingers. Maybe I'll do a couple of that way, so they're almost like buffalo chicken dippers, like chicken fries kind of thing. You could do that. There's a lot of different ways you could use different shapes to do this. So we'll do some of that kind of stuff tonight. So we're just going to grind through this chicken real quick here. Now I have this set with a medium grind plate. You can get, if you have like a KitchenAid mixer, you can get these mixer grinder attachments. You can get a hand meat grinder fairly inexpensively, or you can get one of the really nice, kind of more expensive meat grinders if you want to start grinding your own, you know, beef or chicken or pork or different kinds of things. You could totally do that. It's really up to you, but or if you don't want to go to the trouble of any of that, totally fine. You can just go get the pre-ground chicken as well. I just don't know sometimes what the fat content of that is like, and I know Ash and I really enjoy these chicken thighs when I cook them like in the oven or, you know, in other places in other ways. So doing them this way where I'm grinding them up, it's going to be a different texture, but I know the fat content will keep these from getting dry and overcooked, which is kind of what I'm looking for. So we're going to give it a little bit of a grind up here. So it's going to take a few minutes, but this is kind of why I'd hoped to have this done already, but that's all right. We'll make it happen. So do we have any questions or anything, honey?
Yeah, Mary Kay Wesley
Uh-huh.
wants to know, at least you know what is in your ground chicken this way.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's in the ground chicken this way, and you can also control the fat content. So if you wanted really lean chicken, I don't for something like this, but if for some reason you did, you could use chicken breast and grind it up. Now, when you're grinding your own chicken or beef or pork or any of this kind of stuff, usually these grinders, one, you don't want to put the meat through too fast, because if you get too much in there too quickly, it's going to clog it all up and it's going to cause trouble. The other thing you want to do is, you saw I took the plate out of the freezer. You want to cut your meat up into these kind of cube. You can see kind of the size I'm working with here. Kind of these cube-shaped pieces. You want to cut it up into chunks that easily go down into the chute, and you want to stick it in the freezer for at least 15 to 20 minutes, maybe more. You don't want it frozen, but you want it really good and cold. And if it starts getting a little almost frozen around the outside, that's fine. That extra firm, extra cold meat is going to grind much better, and it's not going to emulsify the fat in with the protein. So if you take really cleanly ground chicken or beef or whatever, and you look at how that was ground, they generally have it partially frozen, and what that does is it keeps the fat really nice and solid. So does, as the grinder is grinding it all up in there, that fat doesn't start to heat up and then soften and then emulsify with the meat, because then you get this kind of mushy, smushy texture, which is not the ground meat texture we're going for. It's the same thing you do when you make sausage, where you don't want it to get too high in temperature, because as it gets higher in temperature, the fat starts to melt. And when the fat melts, it emulsifies in with the meat in a way that doesn't give the greatest of texture. So we want to keep the meat nice and cold, maybe even partially frozen, so that that fat grinds through there properly. So after you cut up your chicken breast or your chicken thigh or your cubes of beef, if you're doing some kind of ground beef, throw them on a plate or a cookie sheet or something. Throw them in the freezer at least 15 to 20 minutes. 30 is better. And you want to get a little bit almost starting to freeze thing going on, because it'll make the meat grind much better through your grinder. And if you were doing something like a second grind, you wanted it like really fine and smooth, and you wanted to put this through like this, you could then take some of the ground, you'd take your ground meat, you would put it back into the freezer for another 15 to 20 minutes before you would run it through again. So you really want to make sure it's really, really nice and cold to grind up. And you can actually see the moisture here. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not, where I just wrote that line through there, but you can see the moisture starting to collect on the outside of the grinder tube there, of the chute, because this chicken is so cold that it's causing liquid to condense out of the air. We're getting condensation on the outside of the metal tube, so it's perfect. It's exactly what we want. Okay.
Mary Kay Wesley wants to know, I'm guessing turkey would work too.
Yeah, you could totally do this with turkey. I am not necessarily a huge fan of turkey, like buffalo turkey, when it comes to this kind of stuff. Ground turkey is just kind of not really my favorite thing in the world. But if you like turkey, you could totally do this exact same thing with turkey. So, or if you wanted buffalo burgers that were made with beef, you could do this with beef too. So I think that might compete with the buffalo sauce that I'm going to use here in a little bit, but you could absolutely do that if you wanted to. So, yeah. All right. So now also, when I'm pushing the pusher down through the chute here, I'm putting a little bit of pressure on it, but I'm not like really cranking that down through there. You want to make sure not to over stress your meat grinder, whether it's a KitchenAid or any kind of a meat grinder. You want to do this one chunk at a time and let it kind of naturally push its way through. That's also why you want to make sure you have nice cold meat, because if it's warm and it gets soft and squishy when it tries to grind through there, it just doesn't do a very good job. It doesn't push through as easily, and so it works the grinder really hard to try to get all of that to go through there. And then you're cranking it down through there, you're pushing on it, you're stressing out the motor. There's just a bunch of bad things that kind of happen as a result of the meat being too warm. So make sure you have really nice cold meat straight from the refrigerator, but ideally 15 to 30 minutes in the freezer at least. And truthfully, if you have like a real industrial powered, like heavy duty meat grinder, you can even do 45 minutes to an hour in the freezer and let it start becoming truly like partially frozen. And that makes a big difference. So, and I just went through these. These were just boneless, skinless chicken thighs I bought at the store. I went through and I just trimmed up any like real big hunks of like excessive fat. If there was any connective tissues that seemed like they were crunchy or hard, if there were little tiny bits of like, you know, blood spots from where they butchered the chickens. Also, there was one that had a little piece of like the hip bone on it. Every now and then you'll find when you buy pre-skinned and boned chicken thighs that there's like maybe a little piece of bone that makes it through or whatever. You want to definitely make sure to get that, because you don't want to go putting that down through your meat grinder. That will destroy the blades and destroy your motor. So, not to mention, even if it could handle it, nobody wants to be chewing on chunks of chicken bone while they're eating. So, yeah, this is going to be a really nice texture though. So, like I said, this is a medium grind. You could do a fine grind on this if you want, but I feel like the texture of a medium grind is really nice. It gives you a little bit of a tooth feel, but it's not like big honking chunks of chicken either. So it's nice and tender and soft. So, but yeah, these are cubes of chicken are probably maybe like an inch by an inch, maybe an inch and a half. You know, I mean, it doesn't really matter that much because you're going to be grinding it all up into a ground mixture anyway. But you just want to make it easy enough for the meat grinder to handle the size you're putting down through there. Now, you could, in theory, season this chicken before you put it into the meat grinder. If you were just doing like chicken burger patties and you weren't going to do the buffalo thing that I'm about to do, you could totally add the seasoning in with the chicken pieces. Just, you know, put your seasoning over top of the chicken, and then when you put it down through the grinder, it'll actually grind that seasoning into your chicken meat, which is kind of a cool thing. I've done that with burgers for us before, where it's seasoned all the way through and the seasoning is ground in with the meat. You can totally do that. You also want to be careful if you put a bunch of salt in there, it can start pulling moisture out, and then it can make the beef wet. So if you season it too far ahead of time, and then it starts to thaw, and then you're pulling moisture out of the beef as the salt is sitting on it, it can make it wet and it can make it harder to get the meat to grind through. So you want to season it right before you would put it into the meat grinder and not cause any issues for yourself that way. Okay, so that's the last of the chicken. I'm going to go ahead and put the plate over here in the sink out of the way. Get this all down through the grinder. And essentially what I'm going to do is kind of let the grinder run until it just about stops. And then I'll take a little handful of the meat here and put it back through the grinder just to make sure it kind of pushes any pieces that might still be stuck in there forward And that way we know we've got all of it ground, and then I'll show you, we'll take it apart and we'll scrape out the remnants of the of the actual grinder. So, but I mean, like you can see, this is a really nice kind of medium grind on this chicken. So it's great. It's still nice and cold even after having gone through the grinder, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so I can feel with the plunger there's no meat left down in there, so I'm just going to grab a little handful of the ground chicken here. Just enough to kind of make sure we push everything through. Put that back through the grinder. And again, I'm not trying to regrind this per se. I'm just trying to make sure that there's no meat that is like still in chunks that's stuck back here at the back of the grinder that's not getting pushed forward. And I'm doing that by just adding a little bit of a plug of already ground chicken to send behind all this to push all that forward. And then that way, if a little bit of it gets stuck in there, it doesn't matter, it's already ground up. So you get like sausage makers or, you know, those kinds of guys, like this is something that they do to make sure everything goes through. I can feel that's just about all the way down into the blades. Yeah, there we go. And so you can see this is kind of the last of it coming out here that would have been made of actual chicken meat chunks instead of that stuff that's already ground up. So, do we have any questions or concerns or comments or anything from anybody?
I don't think at the moment.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this all ground, and I can see that the little bits that are starting to come out here, they're starting to get real thin because there's just not much pressure behind it anymore. You can kind of see, you're starting to see like the holes around the edges here. So it's pretty much done. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and flip that off. Right, so we're done with our meat grinder for today. So I'm just going to put all the pieces over here. We'll get it all washed out. But definitely make sure we get that all taken care of because that's all raw chicken. We don't want to combine that with something like, say, beef the next time I go to grind beef, because we don't want to be mixing beef and chicken together because they cook at different temperatures for food safety. So we don't want to play around with that. So all we're going to do is pull our little grind plate out here. Yeah, and so you can see like there's a little bit stuck in there. That's kind of a normal thing, but all of that should already have been ground. There shouldn't be any big old chunks of chicken in that. So let's pull out our little grinding blade here. Yep, see, and there's that kind of little plug. And it just doesn't have enough pressure behind it usually. So there's a couple of little pieces there that didn't get ground up. That's all right. We're just gonna throw that over to the side. But for the most part, we got everything out of it. That's a pretty good result, all things considered. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, see, and here's all of that kind of ground chicken, the little bits that were sort of stuck in there. They just kind of get smushed up against the sides. That's why you need to make sure you have a big enough handful of that ground chicken that you put down in there, because you got to be able to build up enough pressure behind those other bigger pieces to make sure you get all of it. So we're just going to take this off and just make sure we get everything out of here. Okay. I feel like this live stream should be called Grinding Meat with Chris, but then I don't think I'd probably get nearly as many viewers, and YouTube might really be upset.
Or would you?
If I got a bunch of viewers that way, I don't know if that would be the viewers we were looking for. So, okay. So here's our ground chicken. Hopefully you guys can see that a little better over here in the better lighting. Just gonna wash my hands off. All right, so now we're gonna season this all up. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna continue using the KitchenAid to put this all together. So to make our lives easy, we're gonna put our ground chicken into our KitchenAid bowl. Just like that. Wash my hands off again here. You gotta wash your hands a whole bunch when you're working with raw chicken because, you know, we just don't want anybody to get sick. And cross-contamination is usually the biggest source of someone eating your food and then getting sick. It's not usually that you like undercook something. I mean, if you're careful in the kitchen, you don't have to worry about undercooking food and then making people sick, although it does happen. But usually I find people don't take enough care with not cross-contaminating from one thing over to another, and then you get a little bit of raw chicken mixed in with something that wasn't cooked, something like that. That's what tends to lead to different kinds of people getting sick. So I have some blue cheese crumbles. We're gonna mix these in with our chicken. And of course my fingers are partially wet, so I'm gonna have to get a knife to get that open. Sometimes things like to fight you. Here we go. So this is just a container of blue cheese crumbles. I'm just looking at this. I'm thinking I'm probably just gonna add all of these in to the chicken because that's gonna be a nice combination there. If you don't like blue cheese, leave it out. If you want to use another kind of cheese, you could use cheddar, you could use feta, you could use Swiss. I mean, there's all different kinds of ways you could do this. And I think we're just going to leave it there in terms of, yeah, we're just going to leave it there in terms of the cheese. You could add, like I said, other things to it. We're also going to season everything because if you don't season your food, we got a bit of an issue. So I'm going to put in a good pinch of salt. The cheese is already salty, so I don't want to like totally overdo the salt, but I don't want to not season the chicken because that would just be opportunity wasted. So I'm going to put in a few pinches of salt, season to taste. If you like it really salty, put more salt. If you don't want it very salty, don't put so much. I'm going to put in some black pepper as well. We really like black pepper, so that's probably a good teaspoon or so of fresh ground pepper. And then I'm going to come over here. We're going to get some onion powder and some granulated garlic. And again, seasonings are optional. If you want to keep this like super strict carnivore, you could do just the chicken and salt and just not do the seasonings. You could leave out the cheese if you wanted to. Not use the buffalo sauce. Like, it's entirely up to you how you want to do this, but that's probably about a teaspoon or so of garlic powder, and I'm going to do about the same of onion powder. Not really measuring. It's not that big of a deal. And then I think one more thing I'm going to add is some paprika. And I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons. It's going to be really nice. It's going to give a little bit of a red color and a nice paprika flavor to the chicken. Okay, so now to mix this up and to make our lives easy, like I said, we're going to use the KitchenAid. I'm going to use our paddle attachment. And I'm using the paddle attachment. One, it's easy to clean. Two, it's going to mix this stuff through, but it's going to be gentle. I don't want to like use the whisk and just totally bombard all of the protein that we just worked so hard to get a nice texture in. We just want to combine everything. So I'm just going to put this on my KitchenAid. And if you have a hand mixer or something, you can usually get little paddle attachments. You could mix this by hand. You could use a spatula. Lots of ways to do this, but I'm just going to make it easy on myself here and use paddle on the KitchenAid. Okay. This is also the same thing I do when I'm trying to mix things in to make jerky. All right, so we're going to turn this on low. And we're just going to let this all combine until it becomes one cohesive mixture. Now, if you were using something like chicken breast, it would very easily get dry because it's so lean. That's the reason I wanted to use chicken thigh. So if you're going to use something like chicken breast that is really lean, I would suggest, you don't have to, I would suggest using maybe like 4 ounces of cream cheese, maybe a half cup of ricotta, one of those two, to put some dairy in there that would help to hold everything together while simultaneously bringing some moisture and some fat in, because the chicken breast can very easily dry out when you cook it, and then you go to eat it and it's kind of like, it's grainy and dry. So if you want to do that, that's what I would suggest doing. So what I'm going to do is, while this is all mixing up, I'm going to add in just a couple of teaspoons of this Frank's Red Hot. We're going to make buffalo sauce, but I want just a little of that flavor throughout the chicken. So just a little. Doesn't have to be a lot. It's smelling really good with all those spices in there. Fantastic. Grab a spatula because we're going to scrape everything down.
Mary Wesling wants to know, says, I missed how much chicken did you grind?
Yeah, it was about 3 1/4, maybe 3.5 pounds, something like that. You use as much or as little as you want based on how many people you're trying to feed. And then if you like a lot of blue cheese, put in a bunch of blue cheese. If you don't like blue cheese, don't put any blue cheese. If you want just a little, put in just a little. It's very easy to customize this for however you would like to do it. Okay, and I almost forgot, but this is a perfect time. So I lowered the bowl. I'm scraping down the sides to make sure we don't have any, like unseasoned chunks of anything over there. And I almost forgot, and I'm glad I remembered. What would this be without, I think it's right here, celery seed. Because what do we always serve with chicken wings? Celery. So I'm going to put in maybe a half teaspoon. Celery seed's pretty intense. We don't want too much of it, but a little celery seed in there will be really, really nice. Okay, so we're just going to lift the bowl back up, turn that back on low, give it one final mix, and that'll get that celery seed all mixed through and finish mixing up any of the last little bits that hadn't been seasoned properly on the sides of the bowl. And then we're going to be ready to make our chicken patties. Pull out a little cookie sheet here to work on. All right, that should be good on the mixing. Beautiful. So you can see this is all really well mixed. The blue cheese crumbles are all combined all through there, but I'm also not turning this into a total paste. Like, it still has texture, so no pasty, totally emulsified mixture. This is not like when I'm making meatloaf and I'm trying to emulsify everything to get an almost sausage texture and incorporating all of the fat and the cheese and everything all together. That's not what I'm doing here. That's why I only mixed this on low, because you don't want to completely destroy that texture of the meat in there. We want this to be like an actual chicken burger patty. So we want that texture that we created with that ground meat. Okay, so I'm just going to scrape down the sides one more time. Make sure there's no weird globs of anything in there. Okay. So this is about a little over 3 pounds of meat. So I'm going to make, so if my big quarter-pound patties would be 4 per pound, so that would be like 12 patties. Probably going to do them a little bigger than that. I'm probably going to do closer to 1/3 of a pound. So I'm probably going to cut this in like 8, and we'll just do big patties. So that'll be cool. I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my air fryer because we're gonna use the air fryer to cook these tonight. You could cook these in a skillet. You could cook them in an oven. You could do a lot of different things, however it is you like. But we're gonna preheat the air fryer and I'm gonna give it 10 minutes at the max temperature. So it's gonna be really, really, really nice and hot. I may even preheat it again, depending on how long it takes me to make these patties, but we wanna get it preheating so it's ready to go. So all I'm gonna do is kind of roughly divide this into 4 in the bowl, and then each one of those chunks will become 2 patties. So doesn't have to be exact. I'm not running a restaurant here. Not a huge deal. But take our chicken patties, and we're just gonna kind of form these. Now, they're really sticking to my hands bad. If that starts to happen, turn on the water. Let's get just a little water on my hand. Rub that around, get my hands a little bit wet. And now, look at that, it doesn't stick at all. So if you're struggling with your burger patties, your chicken patties, any of that stuff sticking to your hands real bad, just put a little water on your hands and that'll keep that fat from being able to stick to your hands, because you have to remember fat and water do not mix easily. So if you put water on your hands, the fat that is naturally in that meat repels that water, so it comes off your hands a lot easier. Okay, so a little chicken patty. So we're just gonna make 8 of these. If you guys have questions, feel free to drop that in the chat if you're watching live. And if you guys are watching the replay and you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I may not be able to get to them. I'll try if I can. But we also do live Q&As from time to time. We're going to be doing another one of those soon. We haven't decided when exactly, but we are back in Nashville now, so I have more time to be able to do things like that now. So we're back for at least a little bit, so we will be hopefully doing a live Q&A sooner than later. So watch the channel. I'll make a community post to announce it, and I'll probably talk about it in some of my other videos and talk about it on my Facebook page. We'll make sure you guys have as much advance notice as we can try to get to you. So if you're not already, make sure you subscribe and then hit the notification bell down there so that when we announce, like, hey, we're going to be doing a live Q&A session, you are made aware of it, and then you can show up with your questions. And if I wasn't able to get to you in the comment section on this video or on another video where you might have a question, you can come to the live Q&A and ask me live, and that way I can try to get to all of your questions. Okay. So there's 5, and I'm not worried about these being shaped perfectly. I'm just trying to get them in a good status so that they look like, you know, I didn't like throw it at the cookie sheet from across the room necessarily. Okay. Guys, I'm really sorry about the microphone issue we're having with Ash's lapel mic tonight. I don't know why that's not connecting, but we'll try to get that resolved and have that fixed and ready to go for you guys for the next live stream. So
You can tell people I said to enjoy the break.
Ash said, if you guys can't hear her on my microphone, she said to tell people to enjoy the break. So, which is very funny. You're very cute, but everybody loves Ash, and based on us being at Keto Palooza this last weekend and how many people wanted to come up and have their picture taken with Ash, and how everyone said she's even more beautiful in person than she is on camera, she has a whole fan club. So I know that that is not at all how people feel. Yes, she says I'm sweet. I don't know about that. I'm just telling the truth. That's
Tell people your thoughts on Keto
so.
Palooza.
Yeah, Ash said tell you guys my thoughts on Keto Palooza. So Keto Palooza was a lot of fun. We got to meet a lot of wonderful people. There's such a great community with keto and carnivore, and it was really a joy to actually have faces to put to the names we see in the comment section all the time. We took pictures with lots of wonderful people. So many people were so kind and just telling us how much they love the recipes and how much of a difference the channel makes. And truthfully, like, it's very encouraging to get to meet people face to face who tell you the real life impact of the work that you do, because, you know, I mean, Ash and I just kind of sit here and, you know, we run the channel and we do the best we can, and we just hope that it makes a difference for people. And, you know, people in the comment section tell us it makes a huge difference, and we really appreciate that. But there's something real special about being able to stand face to face and hug somebody and have them tell you about the actual thing that your recipe is doing in their life, or, you know, why they value the work that you do and how much it means to them and their family. Like, that's a really cool thing. So we just had a blast. It was a joy to get to meet everybody, and it was really quite wonderful. Quite wonderful. And I think Ash feels the same way and had a really good time. She's shaking her head yes. So we had a really good time, and hope that we get to see everybody at another keto event somewhere along the lines. If you are available, I'm going to be at Meat Stock 2025. I'm going to be speaking. There's a whole bunch of people that are speaking there and that are on the bill for doing presentations, and huge names in the community that I am just blessed to be on the same poster as them. So Meat Stock 2025, you can Google it. I think it's meatstock2025.com, but you can find it on Google. You can go to Facebook. You can find it all different kinds of places. And I believe there are still some tickets left for the convention part, at least for the weekend. And it would be a blast to see you guys there. Now, I'm going to use some of this, and I know everyone in the comment section is going to freak out about the fact that this has cellulose. I know it has cellulose. I'm not using that much of it, and I don't use it very often, and I keep it around for when I'm cooking for people on a standard American diet that like this. I didn't have time to grate fresh Parmesan tonight, so I was not going to be able to keep up with my plan to put some Parmesan over top of these. So I'm just going to do it this way. Please forgive me for using some of the pre-grated Parmesan. It's best to grate your own, but in a pinch, here we are, making dreams come true. So I'm just going to put a sprinkle of Parmesan over each of these burgers like so. It's going to kind of give it a little bit of a Parmesan crust in the air fryer, which will be really fun, and I think will taste really good too.
I forgive you for using grated Parmesan.
Ash says she forgives me for using pre-grated Parmesan, so thank you.
No problem. Mary Kay Wesley wants to know, where was the event at?
Yeah, Mary Kay wants to know where the Ketopalooza event was at. Ketopalooza, I'm assuming that's the one you're talking about, was in Louisville, Kentucky. And if you're referring to Meat Stock 2025, that is in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. So,
Which we love Gatlinburg.
we love Gatlinburg. Ash and I got engaged in Gatlinburg. It's a very special place. We love it very much there. Okay, so a little bit of Parmesan on top of the burger patties. That's going to be fun. And then, look at that. I got that done with 3 minutes to spare on the air fryer over here. So let me tell you what we're going to do. So these are going to go into the air fryer. We're going to get these fried up, and we want to make sure they get cooked through because this is chicken. It's one of the reasons I wanted to use the thigh, because again, thigh is a lot fattier than something like breast, and I wasn't sure, even if I bought the ground chicken at the store, how much fat would actually be in that. I think it's like 8% fat. Chicken thigh is going to definitely be more than 8% fat, and that's what I'm looking for, is a really nice high fat profile to keep this nice and juicy. So we're going to throw these into the air fryer. Excuse me. While these are in the air fryer, I'm going to mix up some buffalo sauce, and then these are going to come out. We're going to hopefully get them nice and crispy. I'm going to throw some buffalo sauce over them, and we're going to give them a taste. And we're going to see how they are. Now, if you want to make my butter mayo ranch dressing, or you want to use some more blue cheese and make a blue cheese sauce, or whatever you like, if you want to add a little bit of that, drizzle that over the top too, you could totally do that. It's entirely up to you. But that's what we're going to do. So we've got 1 minute left, and then the air fryer's done. Which, truthfully, I had this set for 10 minutes. That's way more preheating than you probably really need, but just to play it safe. We're going to go ahead and let it go all the way through. And I am going to grab a grill brush and a little bit of lard, because these chicken thigh burger patties are probably going to be totally fine. There should be enough fat in them. But just in case, I want to make sure that they don't stick really bad. So I'm going to add a little bit of lard. You could use butter, bacon grease, tallow, all different kinds of ways. I'm not using butter just because it might burn a little bit, I'm afraid, but I'm going to use a little bit of lard here, and we're just going to brush the inside of the air fryer, which is now ready. I'm going to bring it over here, and we're just going to brush the inside here. Make sure there's a little bit of a lard coating all the way around, just to make sure that these don't stick. And again, they probably would be all right because chicken thigh is pretty fatty, and this is preheated, so it's nice and hot, but still, it's just best to make sure. So we're just going to brush that with lard, and then I'm going to go ahead and put our chicken burger patties in here. Nice little sizzle when we drop them in, which is perfect.
Emily says, just in time to hear my two favorite words, blue cheese.
Blue cheese, indeed. Thank you so much, Emily, for being here. All right, so there's 6 of those fitting in there. If I made them a little smaller, we would have been able to put more patties in there, but then I'd have more patties left over. So we're just gonna go ahead and do those 6. And to get chicken cooked all the way through, I'm not gonna go as high of a temperature. I'm gonna go a little bit lower, and then I'm gonna go longer. So I'm gonna turn this up to 380, and I'm gonna start with 12 minutes, and then we're gonna check on temperature from there. Now, in the meantime, I could totally cook those burger patties on like a skillet or something like that, but I think instead we're just gonna mix up the buffalo sauce and talk about different ways we could do that, different sauce combinations, kind of what's going on with that. So the buffalo sauce that most people do is Frank's Red Hot and melted butter. And I have a buffalo sauce recipe that I will be linking in the description of this video once we are done. So if you guys are watching this on replay on Tuesday or after, this buffalo sauce recipe is in the description for you. So I have butter mayonnaise. When I made Frank's Red Hot and butter, and you mix it together, that's really cool right at first, and then the oil starts to separate because oil and water don't mix, and there's a lot of water in hot sauce. So when you do that, it starts to separate, and it just doesn't do anything for me. It becomes oily, and it's like there's hot sauce and there's oil, but they're not really come together. It's a whole thing. So I realized that if I used an emulsified oil, it wouldn't separate. So I decided to use my butter mayo and then add Frank's Red Hot. So I have butter mayo, Frank's Red Hot, and I'm gonna add in a little bit of this Tabasco chipotle as well, because I like that kind of smoky chipotle element in there. I've done sriracha, I've done Cholula, I've done a bunch of different kinds of combinations, but this one is probably about my favorite, where I take Frank's Red Hot with just a little bit of the chipotle. So I'm gonna put in Frank's Red Hot about probably half the amount of Frank's as there is mayo. And you can use more, you can use less. It's entirely up to you. It's easy to customize however strong you want it. If you feel like you need more flavor from the Frank's Red Hot, add more. If you feel like it's too strong, use less. It's easy to customize. And then this Tabasco chipotle, I don't need very much of this. I'm gonna add in like a couple tablespoons. It's just a little bit for that smoky flavor. Maybe we'll just put a little bit more than that. There we go. Just a couple of tablespoons is plenty. We're gonna mix that all together carefully. I'm gonna try not to make a mess tonight, but no guarantees.
How much mayo did we start out with?
It's probably about a cup of mayo that I'm starting with. But again, you use as much mayo as you want. If you need more mayo, use more or use less sauce. If you need more hot sauce flavor, use more. It's not really an exact science. You just have to make it, taste it, make more, taste more, etc., etc., etc. And it's gonna make this very creamy looking buffalo sauce. But I promise you, when you put it on your buffalo wings, or if you put it on something like this, it is the best way of making buffalo sauce that I have ever found, because the oil and the buffalo sauce, or the hot sauce rather, they don't separate. So it creates this creamy, lovely sauce, beautiful texture. All the flavor stays together. The fat from the mayo counteracts the spice and the acidity in the hot sauce. And it allows you to really carefully design exactly how you want your sauce. So now here's what you need to do. You taste the sauce until you go, yeah, that's got a really great flavor and it tastes like hot sauce the amount that I want it to. Then if you say, but I want it spicier, you take ground cayenne pepper and you add cayenne pepper. So you use cayenne pepper to add more heat, and you use hot sauce to add more of the tangy hot sauce flavor. If you keep adding more hot sauce trying to get more heat, you'll only get a minimal amount of bump in the heat, but you'll end up changing the flavor profile, and then it may taste too strong or too acidic or too, I don't know, whatever to you. So use cayenne pepper to add additional heat after you get the flavor profile with the amount of hot sauce that you like. And that's a really great way to balance out your heat and your flavor all together. Okay, so I've done different versions of this. I'm going to add in a little bit of ground mustard powder. That's a really nice addition to something like this. So ground mustard, just a couple of teaspoons of that. And we're going to get a little bit of garlic, because who doesn't love some garlic? Maybe like a teaspoon of garlic, just a little in there for flavor. And I'm going to get some paprika. In case you guys can't tell, I love paprika. It's one of the best spices to use. I'm going to put in a couple of teaspoons of that. You could add some liquid smoke. You could do all different kinds of things to this. And I'm going to add in a little bit of black pepper as well. I like the slight astringency of black pepper. You could also use white pepper if the oxalates bother you. In any of these seasonings, you can leave them out or use something else. So put in some black pepper. Now we're just going to mix that together. I like using a little small whisk like this to mix together my sauces, dressings, that kind of stuff, especially if I have liquid ingredients and I'm adding powdered spices in there. It makes a really big difference in the final outcome. Helps break up any of the clumps, and you just get a lot more even seasoning in your sauces, and it's all good stuff. Okay, so that's all mixed together. So now I need to taste it, because if you don't taste your stuff, you have no idea how it comes out. You can follow a recipe all day long, but if you don't taste it and then correct the seasoning or adjust it to your own tastes, you're never going to get the recipe to be something that you love as much as you hope for. Really good. It's tangy, spicy, not too spicy. The chipotle gives you a real nice smoky element. The mustard, interestingly enough, really brings that all together in a very cool way. And all those spices are just going to get more and more perfumed in the sauce as it sits there, and as the moisture rehydrates those dried spices, it'll pull out more of those flavor compounds. So let me check over here what's going on with our chicken burger patties. Yep, those are looking great. So we got about 5 minutes left on those. And I'm thinking those are probably going to be pretty close to done, if not perfectly done, at that 380 with the 12 minutes, I believe it was, I put on that. So those are going to be really, really good. Now, something else I was kind of thinking about doing, and I don't have time to do it tonight, but you could totally do this, is you can take a non-stick pan, especially if you have like a crepe pan. You take mild cheddar cheese. I have some in the fridge that I was going to, a block of it, I was going to throw into a food processor and shred. I was going to take shredded mild cheddar cheese and put a little pile of it, several of them on my crepe pan, on like a medium high heat, let that melt down and pool out into a big disc, and cook that until it was brown on that side, flip it over and crisp it on that side as well, and do these like brown cheese rounds that I was then gonna lay over top before I put the buffalo sauce over the top. So if you want something a little crispy like that, that would be a cool way to kind of approximate the chicken skin crispiness of a chicken wing if you were wanting to play around with the buffalo burger style thing that way and add a little crispiness to it. So instead of that, we're just gonna garnish with some parsley tonight. But that would be something that you could totally do, and something that I had hoped to be able to do if we hadn't been just behind on things today. So, but that's all right. We'll try it next time. So, any questions or comments from anybody before I start chopping up this parsley?
Emily says, "Oh man, I should have waited before I dressed the wings that are sitting in front of me."
All good. Next time you make some wings, I would love for you to try my method of making buffalo sauce like this and see what you think. I've had a bunch of people tell me that it's the best wings, the best buffalo sauce for wings that they've ever had after they try my method of doing it. So I would love to see what you think. So we're just going to take some stalks of fresh parsley here. And you don't have to do this. It's just me being chefy. That's what I like to do. But, you know, you eat with your eyes first. My great-grandmother, Alma Shazer, always said, you eat with your eyes first. Taught my mom that. And although I never met my great-grandmother, she taught my mom a lot of things, and then my mom taught me. So here we are. And it was always such a cool thing in our house to understand that it's like, hey, you eat with your eyes first. So, you know, you don't necessarily have to be fancy, but it is cool to, you know, kind of have a little bit of intentional effort to your food. It's just kind of a cool little thing. So, and I'm taking the stems off of this. You could throw this into a food processor and use those stems in something if you want, but I'm just going to use the leaves for some garnish. So you could totally get like the dry parsley too that I often use.
Do you want to remind people about Monday Morning Motivational?
Yeah, Ash just said to remind you guys of Monday Morning Motivational. We just had one of those today. We do on the Chris Cooking Nashville Studios channel a Monday morning live stream every Monday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and it's just a chance for the community to all get together and talk about various things in the keto and carnivore world, how we keep ourselves motivated, how we make intentional choices to get ready for the week, how we take care of our proper human diet, what it is we're doing to make ourselves more successful, whether that be losing weight or dealing with some health issue or whatever it is, you know, our goals are. Like, how do we work together to make all of that happen? And we encourage each other and lift each other up and try to get each other to just set our minds right for the week ahead. And we would love for you guys to join us. That Chris Cooking Nashville Studios channel is linked down below in the description box, or you can just go to the search box on YouTube and type Chris Cooking Nashville Studios, and you'll see my picture. It's the same picture as this channel, except it's blue instead of orangey red. And that is the Chris Cooking Nashville Studios channel. Okay, so I'm going to grab my instant read thermometer. I'm just going to make sure these are actually cooked. Yes, those are definitely done. And look how beautiful those are.
Pretty.
Yes. So we're going to set those right here. Get a plate. And we're gonna take those out, stack them all up.
Emily wants to know how's your back.
You know, thank you, Emily, for asking. My back is doing a lot better. It is not perfect just yet. It is still hurting. There are still some things I'm trying to get fixed with it, but it is significantly better than it was. And every day I get up, it's a little bit better than it was the day before. So I am thankful. I'm happy. I'm blessed. So I'm doing all right, but I appreciate you asking so much, and we're doing pretty good. The allergies, on the other hand, are hitting me pretty hard today. Okay, so there are those chicken patties. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the other two in the air fryer and just get them going while we finish up here. And if you guys have questions or comments or anything, please let me know. All right, last two patties. 380, 12 minutes. And your air fryer may take different times, different temperatures than mine. You know, they all work a little bit differently. You just kind of have to play with this and figure out how you like stuff, and you get into a rhythm. You know, when it comes to like, how much salt do I use on something? Like, what temperature does my air fryer cook at? How long does it take? What do I do with my oven? What do I do with my stove? Like all these different things. You kind of have to get in a rhythm. You have to do this again and again and again and again and refine how you do it each time until you kind of start to know about what it takes. And the more you do it, the better you get at it and the more accurate you get. And you eventually get to a point where you know exactly how you like things. And you just kind of get more accurate as you do it. You get better and better and better. Cooking just takes practice. And that's one of the reasons I do these backstage with Chris live cooking shows, because I want you guys to see, like, I'm not cooking with a recipe. I'm not doing anything where I'm just blindly following something. I'm cooking instinctually. I'm using my knowledge in the kitchen, my techniques and the tools and my familiarity with those tools to kind of do stuff on the fly. And sometimes I use recipes like my butter mayo, but sometimes I just kind of wing it completely and there's not a single recipe in sight. So it just depends on the situation and what your goals are, but you know, different ways of doing this kind of stuff. But it's important to learn how to cook instinctively so that if something's not working, you know how to fix it, right? It's a question that I get a lot of times on my bread recipe is people will tell me, I've tried this bread recipe 3 or 4 times. It tastes really good, but every time I do it, it sinks. What am I doing wrong? And I'm more than happy to help people with that. But if you're doing it the same way every time and you continue getting the same result, it's because something's not working. And if you're blindly following the recipe each time, you can never figure out how to fix that thing. The thing that they need to fix is putting in more egg white powder to create more of a strong protein structure so it stands up even after it cools, right? So that takes a little tweaking, and there's a lot of different things that can affect your cooking. So if you learn to cook instinctually like this on your feet, those are the kinds of things where you go, well, I know the recipe says this, but I wonder if I did this, if it would work better. And then you can find in your kitchen with your gear, with the eggs you use, with the cream you have access to, whatever it is, you can figure out exactly how to tweak the recipe slightly so it works in your particular circumstance. So that's why I like to do this, because that's how I do all of this stuff. It's all instinctual, it's all off the cuff. Okay, so let's take some buffalo sauce here. See the nice creamy texture of this buffalo sauce? That is not Frank's in oil. That is a nice, creamy, textured buffalo sauce. Absolutely beautiful. Add as much or as little as you want. I know some people like their buffalo wings super saucy. Other people like them real dry. Same kind of vibe with these buffalo burger patties. Get them super saucy, super dry, whatever you like. Okay, So there's our buffalo sauce. We have to have a little window dressing because that's what we do. And that is a completely different way of doing buffalo sauce something or another for dinner. And it's really not that hard. I mean, we went to the trouble of actually grinding the chicken ourselves, and we still got that done basically here within an hour. Grinding it all together, making the sauce real quick, throwing it in the air fryer. Like, there's so many different steps that can all fit into a single hour if you just kind of know the steps. Just take your time, do your thing, do a good job along the way. And if I was going to be super chefy, like we were in a restaurant, there we go.
Taste it.
Yep. So let's give it a taste, see where we're at here. I would have Ash taste for you guys like I like to do, but unfortunately she's back there without a microphone and she can't tell you what she thinks. So beautiful texture, they're very soft. They're so juicy, super fatty, super juicy. The blue cheese is not at all overpowering. If you really like blue cheese, you could probably use way more. The hint of the celery seed is really nice. It's almost like having the celery along with your wings. The texture is almost like a giant chicken nugget. It's really good. Really, really fantastic. And the Parmesan on top adds just a little bit of a crispiness, a little bit of a crust that's kind of like the chicken skin with chicken wings. Those are fantastic. I will definitely be making those again. So those are amazing. Well, guys, there you go. That is buffalo chicken burgers. And they are absolutely amazing, super juicy, very tasty, very tender. And if you don't have to grind your own chicken meat like I did, although I would recommend doing it because it's amazing, but if you don't have to, you can have this done pretty quickly. It's a pretty straightforward recipe, but it's really, really good. I will definitely be making these again. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry with the little bit of running behind and some of the technical difficulties of the microphone tonight. Appreciate you guys being patient and sticking with us, and we just love you guys. We thank you so much for being here. For the Patreon and the YouTube members that are watching this from the private group where I sent the link out, thank you guys for your support. We love you guys. We can't wait to see you in the private Patreon group or in the private YouTube area with some more recipes. They're going to be coming, some goodies I've got coming out for you. And we just appreciate you supporting the channel. If you guys didn't know, if you're watching this on replay, I have a private area on YouTube as well as on my Patreon for my supporters called The Band. And they get some extra behind the scenes stuff, some recipes from time to time that are only for band members. And they're the reason we can keep doing this. We appreciate them so much. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for watching on replay, for hopefully hitting the thumbs up, subscribing. You can see that button down below. Make sure to join us on all of these things. Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Normally we're live, so you can ask questions, but this week is just a little bit different. Do those from time to time if we have to be out playing a show. So, guys, all of my links are down below, my website, everything. If you have questions, you can hit me up there. You can hit me up in the comments section. Watch for those live Q&As coming soon. We have a great recipe coming out this Saturday, which is going to be holiday friendly. So you guys look out for that. It's also going to be meal prep friendly. It's going to be fantastic. So thank you guys for being here. This is Chris Cookin' Nashville. My beautiful wife, Ash Taylor, is back there behind the camera. Not getting to say much to you guys tonight, but she's there and she loves you all. Eat your meat, even when it looks like a buffalo chicken burger patty from the air fryer. Love your life. We're going to see you guys here in the kitchen for more backstage recipes, hopefully with less technical difficulties and running behind, and in the kitchen for all kinds of new crazy keto and carnivore stuff. Thank you guys for being here. Have a great night.